Hey everyone, I've been meaning to do this video for quite some time, and just because things have gotten in the way and I've been having issues with editing and uploading my actual videos that I already had, I kept pushing it off along with a few other videos. But this is one I think is pretty important, that I probably just need to set some of my other stuff, some of my other videos aside and work on this one and get this one out. Because I noticed that a lot of people who have, who deal with terminal illnesses, cancer, if you don't want to call it terminal cancer, stage 4 cancer, metastatic cancer, whatever you want to call it, a lot of them have a video about this, or people ask me about this. So I figured I might as well get it out there so I could just direct them to the video. And if you're newly diagnosed or you are waiting for your results to come back for either cancer or any other type of massive illness that really affects your life, you probably are wondering, how in the world am I going to deal with this diagnosis? If it comes out, if it comes back that I've actually got whatever it is, in my case, terminal cancer, stage 4 cancer, metastatic cancer, how am I going to handle it? How do people handle it? It is probably one of the things that nobody wants to think about before it happens. And obviously there are tons of books that tell you basically how to deal with it. How should you? But when you are in the middle of getting diagnosed, you don't have time to run out. And you don't even think about running out and reading those books or reading those blogs, or maybe you watch some blogs because they're easier and you don't have to focus too much on it, because at that moment, trust me, your brain just does not work. And if you're in the middle of it, you know what I'm talking about. Your brain is just kind of going on autopilot, and sometimes you don't even know how you've gotten from one appointment to the next. So you actually do not even think about going out and buying a book, renting a book, borrowing a book, or even if you have a book about it, reading the book. But I kind of wanted to share my story of how I dealt with my cancer diagnosis, and the things I did, I guess, that were good, and things I did that were not good. And also, because I did have, technically, I guess, 3 different diagnoses of cancer. My one was in 2010, and it was about a month after I had separated from my husband. And then the second one, I was already separated, already divorced, already basically worked out divorce and custody, and I'd already gone back to work. Well, I actually had to go back to school to get certification, and then I got a certification as a dental assistant and was working a wonderful job. I absolutely loved my job. I loved the ladies I worked with. So I was kind of, my life was getting close to normal. As normal as you can be after divorce, after custody issues, and after cancer. And then I got hit with this. And I mean, I knew for about a year that something massive was happening, and it was probably cancer, but especially the diagnosis that I got was like, it hit me emotionally, was totally different than the first one. Number one, I was, like I said, it was in a different point in my life, a different mind frame. So that was different. And then my last one, I guess, which was like last year with this metastatic triple negative breast cancer. Like, if you don't know my story, I have my stories, part 1 and part 2, somewhere. I'll link it below. That way you're not like, what is she talking about when I say one cancer and different cancer and a different kind of breast cancer that's not the first one. You'll understand if you watch my video. But this last cancer that I have, my last tumor, is another breast cancer, but it's not the first one. So, and this one is stage 4. So, like, I was already in the mindset that in my head I was like dying, you know, I was preparing to die. So it was a little bit different. So, I reacted differently with each one. And, even in between my first and my second, I had a mindset and an idea of what I was going to do if I ever got, in my head I was like, if my cancer ever comes back, I'm going to da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And that da-da-da-da-da-da is nothing like what I actually did. So I figured I would just fill you in on my emotions, fill you in on what was going on in my head, fill you in on what I did, what was good, what was bad, and maybe give you some advice on what should be you might want to do or you might not want to do. So, all right. So I guess I'll just start out with, in 2010, like I said, I had just separated from my ex-husband less than a month before. Let me start out by saying that a year before that, I was 34 years old, and I had actually found my first lump, tumor, whatever, and it was about the size of a pea. And I went to the doctor. She said it was nothing. She didn't even give me a scan or nothing, a mammogram. She said, you're too young. Cancer doesn't hurt. If it hurts, because it hurt. I told her it hurt. She said, cancer doesn't hurt. So basically, a year later, that tumor now is the size of a large gumball. And I have swollen lymph nodes. I kept getting sick. But I was also, I had just left an abusive relationship. I'm trying to say how to say this without giving too much information away, because I don't want to go into the whole custody divorce story. But I want to give you enough information so that you know my mind frame at the time. Basically, it wasn't a good relationship. It was an abusive relationship. I had been trying to get out of the relationship. I had a plan to get out. My ex found out about my plan. We got into a big fight. I tried to leave, but he ended up leaving with my kids. Left me at the house and basically gave me the ultimatum. If you want the kids' life to go back to normal, you get your stuff and you leave. So with the guidance of my counselor and my pastor, I did that. And I grabbed 5 minutes worth of stuff, and so I hadn't seen my kids for 2 weeks at all. No communication, didn't know where they were, and they were very young, 3 kids at the time, just turning 4, 6, and 8, I think, about around there. And I stayed in my car, and then I stayed in a house that was, or in a building, kind of apartment that was on the property of our church, but it was really snowy, and I was stuck down there with not much support. I got pretty emotional, I'll be honest, I got suicidal, and I had stopped eating at that point. And I do have a history of an eating disorder, so of course everybody thought I was just having my eating disorder behavior, but it was more, I was so depressed that I stopped eating. So I was already really run down. I was emotionally run down, depressed, didn't feel like I had any support system, didn't know what was going to happen, didn't have my kids, and I was basically living in my car at this point. I was going to the YMCA to take my showers, and because I was staying at that place for a little bit, and then I stayed in my car on certain days depending on when it was available. But one of the days that I was at the Y, I had done my normal check while I was in the shower, and that tumor, like I said, was now the size of a big gumball. And I went and had that scan and everything. By the time it came back and they told me that it was definitely at least stage 2 cancer, I was really devastated. You know, I was, like I said, already depressed, already not seeing I didn't have my support system. Even my sister, who was my biggest support system at that time because of what was going on with my ex, was not there. I had some people at the church, and thank God for those people that I saw. They really helped me. Of course, I did have my personal counselor. She helped me. And I kind of went into an automatic pilot. Just do the things, no emotions, that's it. The only time I actually had an emotion was before I actually had the diagnosis, when I was at the, I was getting my biopsy, and it was me and the doctor, a female doctor, and a staff. The staff had just left. She had finished my actual biopsy, and she was there, and all of a sudden, I just started crying. And it was partly physical, because the actual biopsy did hurt, but I think it was more emotional, and I just cried and cried and cried. And thank God, my breast surgeon, she was just really supportive. She sat there with me, waited. She's like, I'm here till you don't need me anymore. I'm here. She didn't take her lunch break and just spent the time with me. That, I think, let out a lot of, I think it was more than just what was going on there, the surface. I don't think she knew a lot of the other stuff going on. So I think it was just everything that had happened. So in my head, I was like, okay, I have to find a place to stay. And it has to be near my hospital. I have to get the money for it. And that was it. And I just worked like 24/7 because I didn't have a job. I wasn't working. I didn't have a place to go. So I would drive my car to a park and sit there and go online and search for a place to stay. I mean, I transitioned from looking for a job to looking for a place to stay, and I found I guess it was, I don't know how you would explain it. It was a building, downstairs had lawyer, and then they rented the top 3 floors. Most of the people living there were men, older men. They would go to work, they would come, that's where they lived. It's the only thing I could afford that was close enough to my doctor's office and my kids and my therapist and my church and the people I needed as support. And so I really quickly rented that place, and I cleaned everything. I started in my bedroom, and I cleaned for a day in my bedroom, and then I cleaned the whole hallway, and then I cleaned the bathrooms, everything, so that I knew I was starting chemo and I had to do it. So basically that's what I did. So anyway, that was in my head, it wasn't like a death sentence, because they were saying, oh, it's only stage 2, you'll go through it, you will just do what you have to do, it'll be a hard year. And at the time I was really low in weight, and my doctors were already, oh, I forgot to add that when I was really not eating, one of those people did end up seeing that I was going downhill and I was getting suicidal and not eating. So they actually took me to the hospital, and I went into an eating disorder place, for a recovery place, hospital for a week and a half. And it was weird because while I was in there, this was before I actually found the tumor. Again, I remember them giving me a breast exam, and they didn't find it. How did they not find it when I found it the week after I got out? Anyway, they were talking about, as soon as they found out I had cancer, they wanted to put a feeding tube in me, nasogastric or belly, because they're like, you're going to lose weight, you're not going to be able to keep things down. And I'm like, just please, let me prove to you I can do this. And that was a goal for me, to make sure I could eat enough and be healthy enough for my treatment and for my kids. And that's my mindset then. Now, after I went through all of that, A lot had changed. And in my head, I kept saying, you know what? If my cancer ever comes back, I just kept telling myself, it's going to be stage 4. Because it was already stage 3B, and you don't have a 3C unless if it's a different kind of breast cancer, and I wasn't expecting to have that. And I didn't want to put my family through it, especially my kids. And I, in my head, kept saying, if it comes back, I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm not going to do treatment. I'm just going to live my life normal until I die, so that I don't have to worry anyone. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I don't want to waste... I thought, you know, most people who have stage 4 cancer have a family, a husband, somebody to come and take care of them, or they end up having to go into a nursing home. I didn't want that. So I was just like, if it ever comes back, I'm not going to tell anyone, and I'm just going to live it out and just die without people knowing. That's not even close to what happened. Like I said, I had gone back to school. I had a wonderful job. I had a place at custody. Schedule was legal. Whether it was actually being followed, I'm not going to go there. But there was a major disconnect with one of my kids for a while, and that actually was getting better too, which was an amazing thing. So when I kept getting sick and missing work, it was really kind of not shocking, I guess devastating for me, because I'm like, everything was starting to go up. Even like I was in a program where they were giving me incentives and teaching me how to financially live on my own without the supports of like welfare and all them, and I was slowly getting off of them, and I was putting money away so I could buy a house. I had a plan. Things were going good, and then I got sick. I kept getting more sick. Even my blood work at my normal cancer 3-month appointments had been getting better, but turned around and started going downhill and getting worse. And then it got so bad that I wasn't able to breathe, wasn't able to keep my job. My boss tried to help me as much as she could. I was being overworked. Yes, I was. Now we look back, it's obvious. And they really did try. They brought on another person. They lowered my hours. But obviously, there was more to it. I couldn't fix cancer. And at the time, I didn't know I had cancer. And then it got to the point where we were just like, okay, she just basically said, I need to put you on medical leave or whatever. And I got, what is that called? I guess fired. I don't know what it's called when they tell you you're gone and then they give you disability. I don't know if it's disability or what it's called. I got something from her for like 6 months. And she's like, use the time to figure out what's going on and work a temp job when you can. And I started out that way and then got sicker and sicker and sicker, ended up in the hospital, not able to breathe, and it was so bad that there was no way whatever this was I could keep it from my family. And when I got the diagnosis that I had metastatic cancer of some sort, because that's what, for the first like 4 or 5 months, all they could say is, it is some sort of metastatic stage 4 terminal carcinoma, which it wasn't even a carcinoma. And I just kept getting sicker. I wasn't able to breathe. I wasn't able to even talk. Like, I couldn't sing. I had, my lungs and my heart were so engulfed with cancer that I was seeing myself slowly die. And when I was diagnosed, I kind of did a woe is me. That was my first thing. And I was just like, I'm gonna die. So I'm gonna die, whatever. I didn't do much. I wasn't able to physically do much, but I think I probably could have pushed myself to do more. So I did a lot of sleeping, laying around, not making memories, planning my death. It was really upsetting to me because at that time I was only, what, I don't know. I am now 45, and this was when I was finally diagnosed, the beginning of 2016. And I was like, everything I wanted that I worked for wasn't going to happen. I was planning my funeral. I was shutting people out on purpose, not talking to people, not calling them up. I wasn't able to breathe and have conversations anyway, so that did play a lot in it, but in my head I'm like, it's easier for people to get over a death if they're not able to see the person for a while, or if they try to and they don't let them, so then they get mad, so it's easier for them to get over the death. That's like, my crazy brain was thinking that. So like I said, I did a lot of sleeping, a lot of just not things that were good for me. I didn't do anything that was bad for me, I just didn't do anything that was good for me. It was hard because in my head I also was thinking, if I'm going to die, I want to make this as quick and the least painful on my family, especially on my kids. So I'm like, if I just get this done and over with, then they can move on and recover and get over my death and move on and whatever. I think it wasn't till I finally got the diagnosis of metastatic melanoma and this new immunotherapy started to slowly work about 7 months into it, that I started to realize my tumors are getting, they weren't getting smaller. They actually were just not growing as fast. And I was like, I think I'm going to be here longer. And so in my head, I started to slowly make the transition of, if I'm going to be here, I want to make memories. I want to fix relationships that I need to fix. And I don't want to deal with things that I don't have to deal with. So things that, like, people who were always anxiety, stressful people with always having issues and drama, I tend to put them to the side or not deal with them as much until I'm personally ready or they have lessened their drama. I also have started to not worry about certain things that I used to worry about because it's not that big of a deal. Like cleaning, I mean, I keep my house clean, I do what I'm supposed to, but I don't go overboard like I used to. My big thing was I need to get a bigger place for my kids. We're in a 2-bedroom. We have me and my daughter sharing a bedroom and my other 2 sons sharing a bedroom. But it works, and I used to go out of my way to try to find another place, and now I'm like, this place works. Why not? Why try to go out of my way and stress over finding another place? And just certain things that I used to stress about, like, my cat just came up here. I didn't expect her to come up. She just... Wow. This couldn't have been timed better. Did not plan this at all. Of course, the last thing you just saw was my cat jumped on my lap. And I put her back on the ground. She's back there right now, chilling on her spot that she loves. But when I put her down, I looked in front of me, which is my computer, well, my son's computer, and I got a notification. The notification said that Cokie Roberts, the very well-known politician, well, she's a media person, so she was like broadcaster, but really into politics. It said that she passed, and she passed from breast cancer. Go figure. She had breast cancer, I think, in 2002, and it successfully treated, and, you know, came out about it, talked about it, worked on, you know, came out when she was working, and she was working as a broadcaster and had her wig on and talked about that. But evidently she died from complications of her breast cancer, and she was 75. She was a wonderful person, but that was way too early for her. And just because we're talking about what I'm talking about now, when your reaction to hearing you have a terminal illness, it hits really hard when people that you know, or people that your friends and stuff, pass. And then it really kicks in. It really makes you wonder. It really makes you like think about your mortality. Think about the people you love. Think about the people well, not that you'll miss them, because I won't be here and you won't be here, but the missed opportunities and missed memories and missed everything. Family and friends. For me, it's mostly my children. I thought when I was second diagnosis, that I would not see my son Christian finish out that school year, and I did. Then I thought for certain I'm never going to see him graduate. He's a senior this year, so unless if anything major happens in if this treatment stops working and my health really declines quickly, I'm expecting to be there at his graduation. But it's like, you know, my daughter's graduation, Micah's graduation, Mandy's date, first boyfriend, my boys' girlfriends, college, and all those, everything. That is what makes it really hard when I think about having a terminal illness. They're the things I think about, make it hard. So whenever any kind of milestone, anything that can be a memory comes up right now, I want to be there, I want to make a big deal about it. And I want to put things in order, so if I'm not here for a certain thing, like graduation, wedding, whatever, I have something for them. That on that day they can read, they can look at, they can whatever. I didn't mean for this to be a sad one. I wanted to turn this one around and make it a positive thing, because I think having a terminal cancer has changed me in so many ways and has made me focus on so many good things rather than the negatives, and trying to better myself, trying to change myself, make myself a better parent, get to know my kids more and my family and friends more, and make memories and make it so that when I am gone, the memory of them is a positive one, that I have something positive when I am gone, which is, I think, what God wants us to do when we have these things. He wants us to do that with every life. why is it that it takes something like this for us to think about it and change if we're not already on that path? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's because, we don't expect to die early, young, whatever. We just expect to live forever, and that's not going to happen. And we all need to try to live our lives, and like, we're going to die tomorrow, so always do good for people, volunteer, make memories with those you love. And I think, with my whole idea of how to deal with cancer when you're given a terminal diagnosis or just a horrible diagnosis of anything, you got to do whatever you can to make better yourself. For me, it's these videos, getting my story told so people understand what it's like, and so my kids can look and watch it when something does happen. Or I can go back and look too. If I'm still here years from now, I can look back and say, I thought I was going to die, look at that. Or, I forgot it was like that. Or, the positive and the good and the bad times, But also get my feelings out. It's like therapeutic for me. Some people do art projects or sing or write. For me, it's like theater and acting and stuff like that. And right now I can't do the theater and the acting side. So this is kind of like that. Performance. It's not a performance, but it's, I don't know, it's down that path. And that's how I'm able to, it helps me deal with this. It helps me deal with the diagnosis and knowing that I may not have as long as other people. So I think what you need to do is that when you are given that, if you're unfortunately given that diagnosis, or facing this, any kind of horrible thing like that, try to find the positive in it. Find the positive in each day, because God gives you a positive. You can find positive in every day, but try to find the positive in it and try to find a way to express yourself and get those feelings out, because there's bad feelings you don't want to keep inside. Trust me, I cry a lot. There have been many times where I've said, I can't take this anymore, I'm done. I call my sister, she's like, can't think about it like that, Tammy. Do it for your kids. And I know might be a day where I can't, and because it's just God's timing. But, I have to constantly remind myself to do that. Have bad days, but then try to turn them around. Have moments that aren't good, turn them around the next minute, next hour, whatever. And remember why I do it. I love my kids so much. I don't want to ever be not here. And when I'm not here, I want to make things the easiest for them. So I want to put things together for them, have people for them to talk to, certain situations. I want them I want to make it the easiest for them when I'm not here. If I'm not here. And make it so that their memories are easy to remember about me, and they're positive ones. Because I think that's why God gives us things like this. So, that's just my story. That's how I've dealt with it. That's my positives and negatives, and just my suggestions. If anyone else has any suggestions for me, I am absolutely open and willing to hear them and try them. And let me know if you're in the situation, or you were in the situation, how you dealt with it, or how you would deal with it. Yeah, just let me know, because we all learn from each other. Hopefully people are learning from me, and hopefully when I read your stuff, I learn from you guys. And I thank you guys for keeping me going, because that's one thing that doing these videos is good for me. It keeps me going. It definitely does. Reading your stuff, seeing the videos played back sometimes, just reading and hearing your comments. It really, knowing sometimes I make people laugh, sometimes I help people, it really does help me. Makes me feel like even though I'm not able to work, I'm still able to give something and do something that has a good outcome in the end for people, because I like to help people and I want to help people, and that's one thing that helps me get through this. So there was so much I had on my mind when I started thinking to do this, and I'm sure so much is still not said, but I think this is all I have to say right now. Again, to Cokie Roberts' family, we're praying for you. And she was a wonderful, extraordinary woman. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.